Hi, and welcome to this Ignite Webcast. My name is Josh Topal, and I work on the Office 365 team. And it's great to see such a global community here joining us on the call. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon to wherever you're calling from. And so Ignite events are a series of technical workshops for IT professionals and Microsoft partners. And the Ignite Webcast will address different technical subjects and scenarios that are really beneficial to anyone who wants to increase their knowledge of the Office 365 suite. So today we're really excited to have Vivek Vinod Sharma as our Ignite Webcast presenter. And Vivek is a partner technical consultant at Microsoft. And in today's webcast, Vivek will discuss Microsoft Forefront Online Protection to Exchange Online Protection transition and walk us through some of that. So today's session provides, again, a really great opportunity to hear directly from a Microsoft employee and learn about someone who works really closely with Office 365. So about today's webcast, it'll be about an hour, and we'll leave a few minutes at the end to field questions from anyone on the call. So you can go ahead and type your link questions into the chat box. We'll get to them at the Q&A portion, so it's better if you just wait till the end to type those in. So we are recording today's session, and we'll have the slideshow presentation that you'll see and the video recording up on the original community blog post and on the Ignite website. So one last thing is that since we are recording, please understand that you may be captured in today's recording. So if you do not wish to be a part of that or be recorded, please do not type in the window. Or if you really don't want to be here, feel free to leave and then come back, and you can view our presentation soon. So here, let me just paste these links on where you can find all of our information later. And that's it for me. So Vivek, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take away.
Hey, thanks a lot, Josh. So welcome all to the Ignite webcast on the Forefront Online Protection for Exchange to Exchange Online Protection transition walkthrough. My name is Vivek Vinod Sharma, and I'm working as a partner technical consultant with Microsoft, primarily in the Office 365 space. Today's session is going to be, we'll go ahead and discuss the transition from FOPE to EOP and what does it look like for the customer, the experience, what is the transition timeline, what should we expect, any impact that will be present. We'll also discuss some of the key features present in EOP and why customers should be excited about it. Please use the IM chat to type in your questions, and I also have folks, Amish and Wendy, who are working directly on this transition, directly handling the transition to help you out with the IM chat. At the end of the presentation, I'd like to go over the IM chat. If any questions are not answered, I'll take them directly. So let's begin. A quick overview of what the FOPE transition is all about. Starting September and in October, there will be a series of communication emails which will be sent out by Microsoft to the customers, and this will basically inform them of the transition that is going to happen for the FOPE to EOP. It contains information both the pre-transition and post-transition, what is going to happen during the transition, and what will be the exact process. There is no manual handoff that is required, and the entire transition process is automated at the back end. Microsoft will ensure that we have a smooth transition, and we'll go ahead and create new tenants, assign the licenses appropriately. All your FOPE settings and content will be automatically transferred. There is very little customer action which is required from the customers, once the transition is completed, they have to change their MX record to point to EOP, which is earlier pointed to the FOPE service, and Microsoft will inform you of the same and how to go about doing that. So in talk about transitions, there are two types of transitions which are currently underway. There is the Office 365 transition for your Wave 14 to Wave 15 customers who are getting upgraded, and we're almost at the end of the line for that one. Hope to see it completed in the coming months. But this webcast will be discussing the FOPE to EOP transitions. So the links that you see on the slide deck, the move to EOP.com, that has been designed by the product team or the team which is taking care of the transition. The move to EOP.com website, it's the FOPE Transition Center, and it contains quick links to different resources, what steps you need to do or you need to take before the transition, what will be the experience like during the transition, and what will be the steps which you need to take after the transition. So you can have a look at that when you get the time, and highly recommend you to go through the Transition Center website. So before going into the transition details, just like to discuss a few key features about Exchange Online Protection, why we should be excited about it, and what are the features that once you upgrade to EOP, what will you be leveraging. So what's new in EOP? First of all, the Exchange Admin Center. So we have integrated the Office 365 Admin Center and the Exchange Admin Center look and feel into the EOP standalone environment itself. So once you get upgraded to EOP standalone, you will be experiencing this similar sign-in and login to the Office 365 portal. Once you get in, you will be presented with the familiar look and feel of the Exchange Admin Center and the Office 365 Admin Center. It provides you the tighter integration with Office 365 and a seamless UI to work with. So for customers who already are already working with Wave 15, they'll be quite familiar with the UI and the look and feel of the Admin Center. Transport rules, we leverage the Exchange Transport Rules functionality, which replaces the FOPE policy rules which are present. We have expanded the predicates and actions database, and the transport rules are basically working on the condition, action, exception model. So you decide what business condition needs to be met, and once that condition is met, you decide what action needs to be taken. So depending on the condition, you decide what action you can take, and if any exceptions are required, you can specify that in the rule itself. ETR, the Exchange Transport Rules, can be set up very easily with a lot of granularity and customizations, and it can help you meet almost all of your business needs. We provide you enhanced spam and malware protection, so a lot of granular spam filtering controls in the form of advanced spam features, controls, things like you can tweak, you can play around with the spam score for tags, for embedded tags within your messages that are coming in. We provide international spam management, so we provide you support to block out spam messages from about 86 languages and from 250 countries, so that's been quite improved and enhanced in EOP. Provide you bulk spam control, so default setting is turned on. You can toggle that as per your business requirements. Talk about improved policy management. So again, the policy management is leveraging the Exchange Transport Rules, and earlier with FOPE we used to see that once you go ahead and set a rule, it would take about an hour to get replicated because it used to rely more on replication. With EOP, that is not the case. We've seen even in production environments that once you make changes to a rule, go ahead and create a rule, it almost takes effect in near real time. Within 15 minutes or so, it affects multiple geographies. So it's leveraging the transport layer rule cache, different from the FOPE technology that we had, and that's why the near real-time effect is seen across your tenants. To talk about better admin and reporting capabilities, the similar look and feel for Office 365 to manage your billing licensing needs. So, and if you want to go ahead and add on or top up any of your services, you can go ahead and do that. You can continue with Exchange Online Protection standalone, or you can go ahead and add services on top of it. Reporting capabilities, the downloadable Excel workbooks functionality is available, so that can fetch you data and you can work with reports in real time. Once you click refresh, the engine will go out and get the latest data over to you in the workbook, and you can work with that. We have given this feature, the end user spam notification came live on last month, September 19th, and the ability to customize the end user spam notification between 1 and 15 days. This was brought out as a big ask from the field, and a lot of folks had wanted this feature to be incorporated in the team. We got the feedback and we implemented it in the product, and successfully implemented and present in the current version. And EOP is the modern foundation for all your future enhancements. If you want to transition over your on-premise environment to Office 365, be it Exchange, Link, SharePoint, you can very easily continue to do that. We provide you advanced filter by text pattern match, language support, and directory synchronization. Now, there was a big administrative overhead when you used to work with FOPE, because it used to use a separate sync tool, and for businesses which had dedicated FOPE standalone, they wanted to sync users, they had to use the DST or directory synchronization tool. Later on, if the business decided that they wanted to move to Office 365 and they wanted to leverage directory synchronization, there would be a separate tool for managing the sync to Office 365 service. So in effect, you would see administrators managing tools just for the synchronization purpose, and this was a feedback which came in through the field, and the product team made sure that going forward we just use the Office 365 sync tool. We use the same tool to sync over your users to the Azure Active Directory in the backend. I have a small screenshot of what the EOP standalone looks like. So once you have the EOP standalone service, you've upgraded or you've been transitioned over to EOP standalone, or you've purchased EOP standalone, you will be presented with the Office 365 Admin Center once you log in. You can go to service settings and access the mail protection policies from there, or you can go to the admin drop down and access the Exchange Online protection setting explicitly from there itself. So there are two methods with which you can work with your anti-spam, anti-malware policies and play around with those. A quick reminder of what the EOP standalone service level agreements are. We provide you 100% known virus detection. This is because of the multiple antivirus engines that are in place, providing you real-time protection. 99% spam detection rate. We provide you a false positive ratio of less than 1 in 250,000 messages. The 5 nines of uptime, which is higher than the Office 365 SLA as well, and the average email delivery time of less than 1 minute. Just to give you a small overview of what EOP is subjected to daily within the Office 365 data centers, EOP service is subjected to more than 2 billion messages, both incoming and outgoing. Some of the key EOP feature changes. So directory-based edge blocking, or popularly known as DBeB, which was present in FOPE. EOP doesn't have it at this time. We recommend customers to go ahead and use exchange transport rules to reject messages to invalid recipients. How you would do that is you would have a security group defined, and all your users, all your organization users will be part of it. Once you can then set up rules in EOP mail flow section, where you would define that you do not want to deliver messages to invalid recipients. Message trace, the ability for message trace storage is currently restricted to 7 days. It's going to be increased to 90 days. We do not have a hard timeline on that. The end user spam notification, and that's been released. So we spoke about that. And it was released on September 19th on the Office 365 team blog. And we also provide you the ability to customize the frequency of the spam notification between 1 and 15 days. So end users will get notified depending on the interval you set, and they will receive an email which will inform them of what messages are present in their quarantine. And they can go ahead and take actions. They want to release it to the inbox, they can go ahead and do that. More details and screenshots can be accessed if you access. Now it's 1 to 15 days. The customization can be done between 1 and 15 days. Screenshots and more details can be accessed on the Office 365 team blog. We also provide localization support, so increased functionality in terms of supporting multiple languages. And talk about more information on feature comparison between FOPE to EOP. So you have that link, and at the end we will go over a small walkthrough of what the important URLs are and what you need to have on your notes. So when you're working with the transition, when you're taking care of a production environment. Okay, so we'll begin with the transition details. A small overview of what the entire transition process looks like. Initially, when the team started to lay out the transition plan they wanted to achieve two goals. The first one was to minimize the customer touch involvement, and the second one was to never block a customer. There are a couple of things that the customer should do, but once the customer takes those actions, it will only ensure a smoother transition experience for them. So overall, you see that there are this 5 notifications which the customer will receive. Those will be informing the contacts about the pace of the transition. The awareness emails, those have started to go out, and by next Monday, by October 14th, all customers will have received an awareness email. The second notification which the customer receives 30 days prior to his transition. There's a third notification which they receive 2 weeks prior to the transition. And once the transition gets completed successfully, they'll receive a welcome to EOP email and another email 30-day post-transition, which will inform them, or sort of a reminder which will remind them of what action needs to be taken. If they haven't done that, they need to go ahead and do that. So when you see there are two sets of actions which the end customer needs to do, right from the awareness to the T-14 or till the transition, what needs to be done is you need to update the contact information correctly. And within the FOPE Administration Center, you need to make sure that you have the correct contact information entered. You have a valid email address, one which is active. Just confirm that you have the administrator's address entered there. Make sure that the country preference is set as well, because that is how the transition team will determine your location. If you're using existing Office 365 Wave 15 tenant for services like SharePoint and Link, please inform the Office 365 transition team. There's an alias, the move to EOP at Microsoft.com alias, which you can reply to, informing the team of the tenant which you're using with Wave 15, so that we can merge your EOP standalone with the existing tenant, rather than you going to go ahead and manage separate tenants in two separate places. There's the ability for the customer to go ahead and postpone the transition by 30 days, and this is a one-time postpone. You can do that from the FOPE Admin Center, or once you get the email at T-30, you can go ahead and postpone it once. Once you go ahead and postpone, from the date of postpone, you will be scheduled to be upgraded to EOP within a 60-day time frame. So this was the first set of activities. The second set of activities, once your transition or once you have been brought over to EOP, what does the customer need to do? The first thing is you need to update your MX records. You need to your MX record, which was pointing to the FOPE service, FOPE standalone service earlier, that needs to be updated, and you need to point it to the EOP standalone service. You also need to update any smart hosts which are present in your environment and they're routing outbound email through the FOPE standalone service. You need to update those to make them point to EOP service. Set up the administrators. We talk a little about that as well in the coming slides. And install the directory synchronization tool. So if you already have the directory sync tool for FOPE, you're using that to sync over your users to the FOPE service, standalone service, you will need to plan and evaluate the synchronization tool, which is available for Office 365, and you'll need to go ahead and set up DirSync to bring your users, sync your users over to EOP. So a screenshot of what the customer awareness email looks like. We inform you of what the transition is all about. You need to get ready for the transition. Again, we ask you to update your contact information in the awareness email itself, and we'll also ask you to go ahead and do that on the T-30 and T-14 emails. And if you already have any existing Office 365 tenant, then you can go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and inform the transition team of any Office 365 Wave 15 tenant that you have, so that we are able to merge those tenants into one. At T-30, a screenshot of what the email looks like for the T-30. The transition is coming, and you should be familiar with the features available in EOP. What are the differences with FOPE service? need to review and again update your contact information. So between the time that you receive your awareness and the T-30 email, if there is any change in the contact information, any administrators which have left, you need to go ahead and correctly set the contact information. Again, tell us if you have any existing Office 365 tenants, so it's more applicable to if you're having FOPE standalone and you're leveraging SharePoint and Lync online. So you can go ahead and the transition teams can merge the EOP service with your SharePoint and Lync tenants. At this time, there will be a banner presented in the FOPE Admin Center, and it will inform you that if you want to go ahead with the one-time postpone, you can go ahead and do that. So what happens on the back end? There's nothing which goes on unless the customer goes ahead and postpones it. You receive another email at T-14. If you haven't postponed, you'll receive the T-14 email, and at this time we should be prepared to switch over the MX record at T-0. So if you have any change management or any approval workflow system that you have in place, you need to make sure that all your permissions and all your approvals are in place, so you go ahead and make the MX switch as close as possible to the T-0. If it would be great if you can do that on the T-0 date when you receive the welcome email, but you can definitely plan for it on the weekend or on off hours, which is closest to the T-0 date. You should get prepared to update your admin permissions. So with regards to the FOPE to EOP upgrade, with the Office 365 model works in such a way that you need to have tenant level admins. You cannot have domain scoped admins in the EOP service. So earlier with FOPE, it was possible to have domain scope admins. We will bring those over, but the roles which are granular to domains, those will not be ported over. So you need to make sure that all your domains, if you want to continue working with the domain level admins, the domain scope admins need to perform the administrative task. You need to elevate them to the tenant level admin. And if you're leveraging and you're going to go ahead and use the directory synchronization tool, you need to plan for that in advance as well. Need to have a box set up with the software requirements for the Windows and Azure Active Directory Sync tool, and you'll go ahead and sync your users over to the EOP service. List of about 40 or 45 attributes that get brought over to the EOP service, and it's a one-way replication. So what happens in the backend for your transition? T-0 date has arrived. You will your tenant gets migrated over to EOP. At this time, your FOPE tenant will be locked into a read-only mode. Once your transition is complete, you will receive the welcome to EOP email. In the backend, what has happened is we have brought over your policies, and those have been transitioned as Exchange transport rules. Your connectors have been transitioned as EOP connectors. Anti-malware, anti-spam settings have been transitioned over as well. FOPE domains have been added and verified in EOP. Domain scope admins have been brought over, and if you have elevated them to tenant admins, then those roles will be assigned. If you have not, then the domain scope admins will not be assigned roles in EOP. Once we have transitioned you will receive the welcome email letting you know, congratulations, you need to log into the Office 365 or the EOP the portal. You will receive an email asking you to reset your password. And once you have taken the action mentioned in the particular email, you will be able to access the Office 365 EOP standalone admin center with enhanced security. So quick screenshot of what the reset email looks like. So this is a screen capture of what the email looks like. It has the instructions in place, how you'd go ahead and reset your password. And customers must update their MX record after they get the T-0 notification. So that email T-0 welcome to EOP email is sort of marker which informs you that the transition has gone smoothly and we've successfully brought over everything to EOP. Once you have that email, you can go ahead and for the MX record switch or the MX record updation. Over here, the screen capture which you see, this is where you would go ahead and look at what settings your MX record needs to point to. Normally it's the domain-key.mail.protection.outlook.com. You can access the Office 365 Admin Center, go to the Domains tab, and take a look at what value needs to be entered for your MX record. So you've been transitioned over to EOP standalone. What will happen after 30 days? We will send you a reminder email that you need to have completed the MX update by now. Check for the administrator role assignments. For DirSync users, that's optional, but again, if you want to go ahead and set up that should be in place. The read-only access to the FOPE Admin Center will be restricted for a limited time, so we give you a guarantee of 30 days, but after 60 days, we cannot guarantee continuous mail flow. What happens if I don't update my MX record? So for 30 days, email will still get routed through FOPE. Once you make the switch to EOP or MX is pointing to EOP, only then you will start leveraging the features within the EOP service, and mail will flow through the EOP standalone service. After 60 days, we cannot guarantee you a continuous mail flow, and it's highly recommended that you go ahead and flip your MX over to the EOP service well within that 30-day time frame. So a few special circumstances when you talk about transitions which get postponed due to a number of business reasons. The customers have one-time option only to go ahead and postpone their transition, and the request needs to be made through the FOPE Administration Center. You do not have to call in support or go through any workflow. You just need to click a link, and there's a checkbox. You have the option to go ahead and request for one-time postponement. Once you do that, you will be transitioned over to EOP within a 60-day time frame. So a few more special circumstances. So within FOPE service, we used to have customers with multiple domains. They'll use the same domain for Office 365 tenants as well as your FOPE standalone tenants. This used to create sort of duplicate domains. If any standalone domains are within your Office 365 tenant, the transition team or the automation is designed in such a way that we'll know and we'll transfer the settings to the existing tenant. If you, however, have any other service or like SharePoint Online or Link Online, you will need to notify the alias which has been specified, the move to EOP at Microsoft.com alias, so that we can easily transition over your FOPE settings to your existing tenant. You don't have to manage settings from separate places. Also, a point to note is we do not bring over disabled rules, disabled transport rules, any expired rules. Any rules that are in FOPE for domains that are disabled, those will not get migrated over to EOP. There's the limit for the 100 transport rules as well. So if you have rules which are more than 100 in the FOPE policy rules, there are more than 100 FOPE policy rules, you will need to drop that down. Actively, Microsoft has been reaching out to customers, and we've worked with almost everyone who exceeds that limit, and we've tried to trim that down. So this was about the disabled domains. If you have a tenant with disabled domains or not have any domains, we will not ensure or we will not get that transitioned over to EOP. And if you want to get your FOPE tenant over to EOP standalone, please enable it or go ahead and add an enable domain to your vacant tenant by November 15th. So let's talk a little about licensing. How does the licensing get transitioned over from FOPE to EOP? And this is what if you since we're doing the auto upgrade, the entire process is automated. We take care of your licensing as well. However, there are a few things that you might be aware if there's any information that you need to present it. You can go ahead and do that. Today, EOP is available through the open. The users can have their partner, or the customers can have their partners purchase and sell EOP through open agreement. You also have the option to buy EOP through enterprise agreement and directly from Microsoft. EOP is not available through the Select Plus agreements, the traditional open value and the open value subscription agreements. It's not available through the SPLA, Service Provider Licensing Agreement, the UCES, Orange, Sprint, TELUS Gold, not available. Syndication, EOP standalone is not available through syndication. However, if you can still get EOP filtering if you have Exchange Online through syndication, you will still continue to use the filtering capabilities of EOP. Only you cannot have EOP standalone purchase part of syndication. Licensing transition. Talk about volume licensing. So basically, we categorize the entire licensing transition into four broad categories. The first one is the volume licensing, the enterprise agreement, CASA, Select, Open, Government. The volume licensing is segmented by type. It can be commercial, academic, commercial, including the GCC. For each transition, we'll go ahead and grant a transition license, and this will expire with the existing agreement. So we're not canceling any of the agreements. The customers have to continue and fulfill the licensing. And talk about SPLA, Service Provider Licensing Agreement. We grant a license. We grant transition license for every FOPE license purchase, and this will expire with the SPLA agreement. So we need to, this will point to note is the same transition. It's going to co-terminate when the service provider's agreement terminates with Microsoft, because the customers or the users who are using for the service as part of the SPLA, those belong to the partner and they do not belong to Microsoft directly. Talk about UCES. Again, it's a similar format for what we have for SPLA. It's just that the transition license will expire 60 days post transition. For customers or licenses that have been purchased through legacy front bridge, we grant a transition license for every license that has been purchased for FOPE, and it will co-terminate with the existing agreement. Now for the last three, for the SPA, UCES, and purchase through front bridge, we do not provide the segmentation. There is no eCal version of EOP that is available. So with eCal version, or when you buy FOPE as part of the eCal services, eCal with services, you get things like partial access to the ETRs. That is available only as part of volume licensing. So few resources which will come in handy when you're managing environments which are quite big and which are quite complex. The FOPE Transition Center. So this site has been built out on TechNet, and it's out there. You just take time and go through what the actions are involved when talk about before transition, during transition, and after transition. Move to eop.com is the link for that. When you click on before transition, so in the end we'll see this in the walkthrough as well. When you click on before transition, the hyperlink will take you to a separate landing page, and you will learn about important things that you need to, important pointers that we need to keep in mind before my transition takes place. And what are the actions that needs to be taken after the transition has been completed. When you click on the hyperlink at the transition center, it will take you to a separate landing page and mention out things like updating your MX record, updating the smart host. In case of any problems, we do not expect any, but in case you go through any, in case you face any problems for pre-transition, any issues which are not are serving as blocker to the transition, you can open up a support ticket through the FOPE admin center or call in the spam hotline 866-291-SPAM. For post-transition issues, we need to contact the Office 365 support. The support has been integrated with that. For Premier customers, we recommend that you go ahead and contact both pre and post. You go ahead and contact Premier support both pre and post your transition. A few important links. The first one, the Transition Center, the move to EOP.com. Link separately for before your transition and after your transition. And there's a quick link on accomplishing common FOPE tasks in EOP. That should be helpful as well. Just going to give you a brief walkthrough of the Transition Center and the important links that were discussed. Just going to go ahead and share out my desktop. All right, should be up at your end. So this is the Forefront Online Protection for Exchange Transition Center that we mentioned on the slide deck as well. Categorized into 3 sections: before transition, during, and after your transition. You click on the hyperlink separately. It will take you to the separate landing pages for each of them. Things you need to do before your transition: learn about EOP, updating your correct contact information in the FOPE Administration Center. You can also go ahead and assign one of your contacts as to be your transition contact, so that we do not, the company does not receive excessive spam when it comes to notifications. If there are a lot of contacts in there, you can dedicate one person to be the transition contact. Review and update your company contacts information. Make sure that the fields for email, first name, address line, country, region are correctly entered. If you're having any other Office 365 services, just make sure that you notify the move to EOP alias. During my transition, it will be locked in a read-only mode, so we'll not be able to make any changes to the FOPE settings. Need to be aware of that. And things which you need to do after your transition, you need to, there will be a migration report which will be generated once you log in. You'll be presented with a report saying how the migration went. If there were any domain scope admins that we could not bring over, or any problems that we encountered, those will be mentioned in the report itself. Actions like updation of your MX record. You need to go to the Office 365 Admin Center, click on Domains, and view what record the MX needs to be pointing to. Update your smart host information if you have any, and inform your user about changes to the spam quarantine. Earlier, FOPE used to provide end users ability for the end user to log into the quarantine. You can go ahead and explore the admin center and the ESE optional, and the setting up of your directory synchronization tool. If you had a directory synchronization tool which you used to work with in FOPE, the DST tool, you need to plan for the directory synchronization tool with Office 365, a dedicated box which meets the necessary software requirements. You need to go ahead and set the DIRSync, and that'll sync or do a one-way replication from your on-premise Active Directory to the Office 365 Azure Active Directory. A quick link about how licensing works after your transition. So you can go through the quick links about the volume license, about Front Bridge, and the Sprint Secure messaging protection. The link on the FOPE to EOP transition. So this is a frequently asked question. We consolidated a lot of questions that we get asked on our internal DLs as well. So this has been should be quite helpful when it comes to real-time scenarios in the field. This link talks about accomplishing your common FOPE administrative tasks in EOP. very good link which would recommend you to go through. Things like how you would configure the SPF records, configuring TLS security, message limits, inputs, anti-spam functionality and policies, the advanced spam features which we are talking about in the what's new in EOP slide, things like you can play around with the spam score of the messages, creating transport rules, the custom policies, installing and using the junk email reporting tool for Microsoft Outlook, which will help you report the junk, the validity of the junk over to EOP service, managing users via directory synchronization tool, spam quarantine, and how you would enable end users or ESNs via the content filter policy. Now, an update to the product. Earlier, the product did not have the capability of adding multiple policies. Depending on the feedback that we got from the field, we have made sure that we give you the ability to go ahead and design or set up different policies. There's a default policy which you'll get out of the box, but you also have the ability to go ahead and create different content filter and anti-malware policies for different sets of your users that can be applied to different domains as well. And yep, the site for the FOPE to EOP feature comparison, quite handy, and this will get updated as and when we make tweaks to the product. If there's something which is currently not present in the product, we'll go ahead and make sure that it's updated. You can always keep your feedback coming because that will help us in incorporating that into the current product as well. So with that, I'd like to wind up the slide deck. Go ahead and switch back to my presentation. And we should be good for our Q&A.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Vivek. Great presentation. So it's now the Q&A portion of our call. We had a lot of questions and answers flying back and forth in the window, but if you haven't had your question answered yet, please go ahead and type that now into the IM window, and we have a few folks on the call that are able to help answer those questions. So while people are asking questions, I'm going to throw some survey questions up. And also, if you want to contact me or Vivek in the future, please feel free to send me a private message, or if you have any questions about the Ignite Webcast or anything like that. And I also want to paste again the links where you'll be able to find the recording and the PowerPoint and learn about future sessions. But okay, we already have our first question, so I guess we can go ahead with the Q&A.
So there's one question here. It says, who can SLA partners reach out if they have questions regarding their transition to EOP to Office 365? So I'm assuming this is focused on the FOPE standalone. So one, the SLA partners can reach out to the Move to EOP alias or their standard support team, which is at Microsoft, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that they might have around that transition.
So to answer the question on federation and using DirSync, there is no federation into FOPE, so I'm guessing that you must already have a presence in Office 365, and so if you are already federated with Office 365, then you would not have the same experience as a customer who's being introduced fresh into Office 365. So you may not have to go through the password reset because the credentials already exist.
So for the question on the migration, already answered. FOPE filtering rules, those will be migrated over. Ivan had a question on the rules. I'm just scrolling back up through the IM chat.
The 100 rules limit is a little bit deceiving. The rules in EOP are significantly stronger and more flexible than they were in FOPE. So the rules that you needed to build in FOPE can be consolidated and built in fewer in EOP. And so I know it sounds like a big difference, but in reality, it's not as bad as it sounds. To answer the question on how you get the email alerts, just go ahead and log into the FOPE Admin Center and make sure that there's a contact there created for you. We are sending the communication to the named contacts on the customer. Also, if you have an administrator account, you'll be getting the notifications if you're an administrator also.
Lewis, for your question on what is the maximum number of entries for IP allow and IP block lists in EOP, I don't remember off my head. When do you
so
know that?
There's a couple different ways that you can implement your IP block and allow list, and I don't know exactly what the number of IPs is, but it's a lot. You can do a block or allow list inside of transport rules, and I mean, that can support a ton of IPs, and then there's also in the connections filter, you can do it there also, and I don't know what it is. It's a lot. I'll have to find out.
Yeah.
And the question, does EOP allow incoming relay as Office 365 tenants on-premises applications? There is relay for mail. I don't know that I exactly understand the question from applications. If it's you've got an on-premises server sending mail to your own online mailboxes, or that's fine. But we're not, strictly speaking, a bulk mail service, so I think it would depend on the kind of mail that's being sent out, whether we would be able to support that or not. Is there an upgrade schedule for Office 365 customers? There is. I don't know necessarily what that is. I'm more engaged with the FOPE side.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that schedule or privy to that because we're focused purely on the standalone customers here.
I think if you've got an existing Office 365 customer or tenant that is going, waiting for upgrade, you should be able to reach out to the support team and find out when you're scheduled for that upgrade to happen.
Okay, any final questions before we wrap up the call? All right, well, thank you so much, Vivek. All right, here we go. One last one. Oh, a couple more. Sorry.
So I'll take the policy question. If your customer hasn't, or if you are the customer, if you haven't received a call from Microsoft telling you that we're unable to automatically migrate your rules into fewer than 100 transport rules, then don't worry about it. We're ferociously monitoring for customers to make sure that they get those rules transitioned over smoothly. And when we find customers who have either rules that are more complex in FOPE, or there's just such a great number of rules in FOPE that we cannot easily consolidate them into fewer than 100, then we actually call you and let you know that we have to do the work in order to get them reduced. After we've, in 99.9% of all of our cases so far, we have been able to successfully get those rules down below the 100 threshold that's supported by EOP. What is the reason for 100 transport rules per company in Office 365? It's really scale and manageability. Most customers we have found are able to achieve their goals with fewer than 100. And if not, then we address that specifically with those customers. But from a service-wide default setting, that seems to be a pretty appropriate benchmark. But yeah, get ready to fix it ASAP. Traditionally, what we're able to do is to take a look at the rules that are actually being used, and although that's not 100% perfect, it's a pretty good guideline, especially for customers who've been within the service for a long time. They have a lot of rules that they don't need anymore because the service has adopted that logic, and so the rules are not necessary anymore. And so we just work with those customers to help them figure out which rules they can let go. So on the incoming and outgoing relay, I do just want to reiterate that it might be dependent on the number of messages that the application is trying to send. We do have sending limits that we have to be aware of. We're not a bulk mail service, so if it's like a list server, that may not be appropriate for routing through EOP.
Okay, it looks like we got most of those answered. We still have a few minutes, but I guess I'll just like to wrap this up quickly, and then we can leave the Q&A portion open if people want to stay on for about 2 or 3 more minutes. But thanks again to Vivek and to all of our presenters, Amesh and Wendy, for helping out.